Hello and welcome back to Sparring Pod with me, Hallgeir Gustavsen. Today I'm a bit fanboy, I have to admit. I'm sorry about that, but I have a very special guest today, Chris Doe from the Futur. Please welcome him. Here you go. Welcome, Chris.
Hello. Hi. Good to see you.
Same. I'm so happy that you were able to join me today. You are a designer, CEO, YouTuber. You touch on all the things my podcast touch upon about creativity, marketing, entrepreneurship, content production, everything. So to have you as a guest is amazing. Thank you so much again.
It's my pleasure. It really is.
Thank you. In your own words, could you tell me, or the viewers I have, a bit more about you? What are your focus right now between Blind and the Futur?
Sure. I like to describe myself as a loud introvert that will tell you a little bit about my personality. And the Futur has this really big mission, which is to teach 1 billion people how to make a living doing what they love. In a former life, I was a graphic designer. I started my company in 1995 called Blind, and we made commercials and music videos for 20 plus years for some of the biggest brands and bands in the world. In 2014, a friend of mine, a former college classmate, said to me, let's go make content on YouTube. And I thought that was the dumbest, craziest idea ever. And then I did it.
Yeah.
And in doing so, I transformed my life and my business. Now I do content creation full time. I no longer do client work, and it's been a beautiful, glorious path.
Yeah, but you because your voice on YouTube, which is basically my main source of learning when it comes to running a business and marketing in general. Your voice on internet basically encapsulates everything that me in my company has learned but not vocalized in the last 10 years. And you are how are you able to vocalize it or to put words on it the way you do? How much time do you spend thinking about these things?
That's a great question. Let me just figure out how to answer that question. Okay. Something that people need to know is about 5 years into my business, I had a windfall of profit for that year. And I asked my wife, who also is my business partner, that maybe we should spend some of this money on professional resources. So that year we hired a CPA, we hired a financial planner, and I also hired a business coach. And the business coach really is the person who transformed me and my thinking in terms of learning how to run a business. Up until that point, I was successful because of talent and hard work, but I hit a ceiling, and that ceiling was just killing me. So now I'm going to have to work on the things that nobody wants to work on: sales, marketing, leadership, a business mindset. And so for the next 13 years, I worked with this same business coach and would meet with him once a week for 13 years. So this is way before I make my, it's a lot of hard work. This is way before I'm even thinking social media, before I'm thinking YouTube. And so now fast forward to 2014, I've run a business for, at that point, almost 20 years. And the number one thing that people would start to ask me about is, Chris, I want to start a business. What do I need to know? And I would answer these questions one-on-one over the telephone, doing things like that. But eventually I got tired of doing that. And I said to this one person, his name is Frank, I said, Frank, I'll answer your question if we can record it and do it live. He's like, happy to. And so to my surprise, when I did this kind of content, it started to catch a lot of people's attention. I thought, who wants to tune into YouTube to see like an Asian bald guy talk about business and creativity? And it turns out actually quite a few people do want to hear about business. And so we found a place and a space that wasn't really, it wasn't overwhelmed with lots of people talking about it. So I was happy to be one of a few people who are talking about the business of design.
Yeah, because one I have been a nerd all my life, and listening to your podcast where you talked about you, it seemed to me like you also were kind of a nerd in your own space for quite some time. I have always thought when you talked about having your portfolio and nobody asking to see your portfolio, but you wanting to see the other people's portfolio just to see if you were on par.
Yep.
Yeah, I really recognize that as something, because I really don't care about. I know I do good work in marketing and stuff like that, but I want to see other people's results, other people's case studies. That is something that really ignites something within me to see, am I on par with this? So that really resonated with me. How was that? Because as you might understand, I listened to your podcast about you before this. So why were you interested in how to measure up? Because you seem like a really bright guy, and I think there is a question there somewhere.
I got the question, I think.
Yeah.
I'll try to answer. If not, redirect me, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I was led to believe that the school that I was going to was made up of mythical unicorns of creativity. And when I got there, I started to wonder, where do I fit in this pantheon of design greats? I'm talking about my classmates. I'm not talking about the instructors.
No. Yeah.
And I came late to design. I started to become serious about it only like a year prior. It wasn't like I lived all my life saying I'm going to be a designer. I actually didn't allow myself that thought. And so I'm relatively inexperienced, and I grew up in Silicon Valley. There weren't a lot of great creative resources for me, at least at that time. And so I thought, I don't know anything. And the best way to know is to find out and to be brave enough to ask. So I wanted to confirm my suspicion, which was, is this the world's greatest gathering of creative human beings, or is it not? And so I dared to ask, and people would show it to me, and like, oh, it's a bunch of student exercises. It's not that good. Shoot, let me just try another one. Maybe this is an anomaly. So every person who's willing, I would watch or would look at their portfolio. And that's how I started to understand, like, contextually, this is where I fit.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was. Can I ask you how old you are? Because in my Google search it said 32.
Yes, I'm 49.
Yeah, good.
Just a few years off.
Yes, thank you. Because regarding that Google search, I was thinking he's 32 years old and he started his company in 95. Wow, that's young. But you're not that amazing. You're just amazing in another way. Yeah, good. Okay, because I started my first company in 99. I was 17 years old and I bicycled to a company and I told them that you guys need to be on the web. At that time it was the web, and he said like, yeah, okay, tell me about the web, and he said, okay, this sounds like a good idea. How much does it cost? And I was like, oh shit. How much does a website cost? I don't know. So I just threw out the largest number I could muster, and that was $1,400 approximately. And I was like, yeah, okay. And the whole way bicycling back, I was like, I said the wrong number. I said too low number. He didn't even think about it. That was way too low. So that's where I understood, or that's when I started to understand what you always talk about, to price things according to the value that you bring to the client. And that has been so hard for me to actually put into words before I have seen the YouTube videos that you have done. If I can ask, in your past, what was the most defining for you getting to where you are now? Do you see like one place or one thing that gets you on this path?
There's several, and so it depends on which path you want me to talk about, but many paths aren't constructed from one singular act. It's a series of small acts that lead to that moment. People say, like, what is good fortune? It's like being at the right place at the right time. So I add one more thing: being at the right place at the right time in front of the right person. And that doesn't happen without consistent, persistent hard work and preparation. You
Yes.
manifest that opportunity
Yeah.
into happening, into reality when you're prepared. So for me, the big breakthrough was when I was able to do a national car commercial. Okay. So once we did a national car commercial, everybody else would say, okay, you're legitimate. You know what you're talking about. We know how to sell you. We know how to work with you. And at that moment, our company blew up in wonderful ways. But before you can get that national car commercial, you have to do the regional car commercial.
Of
And
course.
before you can get that, you have to do something simple. And then you just keep tracing it all the way back. And usually, for a lot of things, I can trace it back to the singular act. And it all began when I was still in school. When there was this guy, his name is Jason Hoover. He's a friend of mine. He's an industrial designer. We're both poor. And so we're both trying to make it in the world. And he couldn't have finished his education, but I became friends with him. I tried in every way I could just to help him when he needed it. So Jason then later on introduces me to someone who then introduces me to someone, and then the rest of the story.
Yeah.
So if I turn my back on this person, if I said, you're just as broke as I am, I only want to work with rich students, I only want to help people who I know who can help me, then none of this would have happened.
So, but then if we pull it even further back, the values that your parents instilled in you basically made you do those things. So you can take it even, I understand. Right. If you could travel back and meet Chris, age 10, and you could say you could talk to Chris 10 years old for half a minute, what would you tell him?
I would tell him there's just going to be this thing called YouTube and social media to don't fight it, to go into it as soon as possible. You won't know how to use it. You won't know when or why. Just start making content, and then that way you can get an early start.
This Chris Doe at age 10, what things would you think that he would be the most impressed with at your present stage in life?
I at the age 10, so the age 10 brain is just really not that mature. I can't answer that question.
Let's say
from age
15 then. Let's say 15.
No, but I can answer it on a superficial level.
Yeah.
Like a teenager is going to be concerned about financial success, about fame, about popularity, those kinds of things. And that 15-year-old would probably be impressed at the reach in which the future has, and the number of lives we're able to touch, and the deals that are happening today because of that. And I think that person's going to have their brain melted. Like, I just can't believe people pay you to do this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Do you think there's anything in your life right now that he would be embarrassed about?
Well, my 15-year-old self too is a very shy person who's not comfortable speaking to even one-on-one situations, and so that person would think like, there's no way I could be on camera. There's no way I could be on stage and having so many eyes looking at me at that time. So that's probably the thing that they would be most shocked by.
What kind of things do you have in your life right now, or your personality, that you wish to be able to take with you to the future, to become an old Chris, and look back and see, okay, I managed to take a hold of this part of me and stick with it?
Well, I think the thing I'd like to never lose is my curiosity, my love for learning, and my love for helping other people. And that gives me very selfish, genuine joy. And I think it's a human nature thing. I think sometimes we've moved away from this idea. Like, I got a message from somebody today, and they said something like, I don't have a business without the things that you've shared. You've helped me to transform from going from a $500 logo to a $20,000 logo, or something like that. And it makes me really happy to see that in our connected society, that an idea that's transmitted from here in Los Angeles out into the universe. Wherever it hits some person, some man, some woman somewhere, and it changes their path.
Yeah.
Sometimes negatively, and sometimes positively.
Cool. Your agency is named Blind, and in your capabilities deck, there are some words about the background of that name. Would you like to explain the reason behind Blind?
Sure. Blind, there's a lot of different explanations. I'll give you both. Okay.
Yeah.
When I grew up, I loved skateboarding, and there was a company called Vision, and Vision was a corporation, and they had lots of money. And then these skaters formed a company also called Blind, just as a parody brand. And I always loved that. So later on, when I went into my business, I was thinking, you know what? I don't know how long I'm going to be in business. I'm going to start a design company, and let's come up with a name that's very provocative, something that's going to be kind of anti what you would think, anti-logic, illogical. And so we said it's going to be called Blind. But it's also married with our design philosophy, which is I don't believe in having a strong personal style that I impose on my clients. So we say we don't begin the project without you. We begin without preconceived ideas or notions. We begin without prejudice. We begin without assumptions. We begin blind. And that's the meaning we tell our corporate friends.
Can I tell you one of the questions me in my agency ask new designers in the interview process is that, is it very important to you to put your spin, your feelings and thoughts on the work we present to our clients? And if they answer yes, then the interview is over. Because and that has been, as I've been in the company for 6 years now, and I was told that when I started, it's like we work for the client. We do not put our stamps or our feelings on the client's work, because it's supposed to be for the client. And then when I see that in your capabilities deck also, I'm like, yeah, this is actually not something that you have thought about or that I have thought about. This is just how it should be in my mind. If you understand what I mean.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it goes, depending on the industry and the field that you practice, having a strong personal style can be an asset and can also be a detriment. So photographers, they need a strong personal style. Illustrators and artists generally need a strong personal style where you can look at it and say, that's that person's work. And they're going to get hired because of that, because that's what makes them unique and different. Design is a little bit different. Design is like, you know what? I have a set of skills and I'm going to help solve a problem. And sometimes my personal preferences for things that I like are going to go against this solution. And so in this case, for me, I want to have lots of tools in my arsenal, and I want to be able to design the thing that is most appropriate for the client, and also the thing that's most likely to help them achieve their goal.
Yeah. Can I ask you what you think? Let's see. No, my logo here.
Do it one more time. How'd you make it bigger?
No, I did like this. It's an
H. When you move out.
And a G. And also the hand going like that.
Yeah. Is that the hang loose symbol?
Yeah. Or rock on or something.
Oh no, rock and roll.
Yeah, rock and roll,
right?
Yeah. So I tried to incorporate all of that into my own HG brand. So, but this is just a simple logo. What is the coolest client work you have done?
The project I loved the most was a music video, and it was done for the Ravenettes, and I've done 2 music videos for them. And it's the most joy, and it was the hardest work I've ever had to do. And mostly because it was a client that gave us a very open brief, and they had very little input on it, not because they didn't have the right to. It's just two artists work together, they respect you to do your thing.
Yeah.
And that creates immense pressure because, you know, when things don't work out from a client that's very controlling, you could always tell the team, yeah, it wasn't as good because they made us
Yeah.
do this, right?
Yeah.
But when the artist says, do whatever you want, if it's not good, who are you going to blame? You just blame yourself.
Yeah.
So it's an immense amount of pressure, and it's also a great opportunity. So we got to play, we got to explore, we got to make art and to get paid for it, and I got to be seen by lots of people. And so for me, those two music videos for the Ravenettes are my favorites.
Cool. How do you come up with ideas? What kind of process do you have?
I have a very specific process. It's borderline rigid. I like to think of it as if you listen to musicians, artists,
Yeah.
The ones that understand a process, their creative formula, are able to make hit after hit. And the ones who luck into it, they're called one-hit wonders.
One-hit wonders, yeah.
Yeah, they, for whatever reason, they got together and they made this really amazing piece of music, and they have no idea how they got there. I'd like to consider myself as a person who's not a one-hit wonder, who can do something and have predictable and repeatable success. And in order for that to happen, you have to figure out some kind of creative process or formula. So for me, almost always, it begins with understanding what the problem is. And I need really strong focus and clarity from the client. Like, the solution sounds like this in just words. Like, can we commit to 2 or 3 words? Once I have that, I go into research mode, and I have usually a team of designers working for me. I will say it's about beauty, it's about sacrifice, it's about whatever the words are. I want you to find images, art, still frames, photography, illustration, videos, on anything that you think relates to this. And we create these gigantic buckets. And so if I have a team of designers, there can be literally hundreds of things in each one of these buckets. And I can quickly scan through and I'm like, I like this, I like this. And then I let my imagination take over. Like, based on the theme of love, this image is speaking to me. And I'll go away and I'll sit down and like, why? And I'll write some ideas down. I'll try to create a story around that. And then I give that story back to the designers. And I said, find me images that tell this story. And we start to shape the story together. That's typically how I work.
Yeah, and then this goes out into what did you call it? Is something scope? One of these long boards.
Oh, Stylescape?
Stylescapes, yeah.
Yes.
Does these things turns into Stylescapes, or have I misunderstood the process?
Okay, if I'm doing brand identity design work for a client, the process is a little bit different. I'm sorry, because I was thinking music videos and commercials. You have to write a story, and so it's a little different.
I understand. So okay, so in music videos, then you kind of think up the story based on images, based on words. But
themes.
In client work with brand styles, then
different process.
Yeah, that's a different.
Let me explain that one.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so when I'm doing branding, brand identity design, it almost always begins with a facilitated discovery session with the clients. We sit down, we understand who the users are, what the end goal is, and what the brand attributes are, their tone and voice and look and feel. And we just use mostly words. Then we create a customer journey map about how our ideal client is going to become aware of us, how they form interest and desire, and what ultimately causes them to take action. And in doing so, we have a pretty good roadmap of all the deliverables that need to be built in order for this customer journey to manifest itself. Okay. Then we go back to the studio and I say, okay, I'm going to write the internal positioning statement for this brand. And here are their goals. And here are the keywords that define them, their tone of voice and their look and feel. And then what happens is they start to build the stylescapes for me. And I also collaborate with a copywriter to start to figure out, how does this brand sound? What's the voice? How does it? How do they express their personality? And so we're working in concert with each other. So the stylescapes start to get built, and then we get those approved by the client. And a stylescape, for people who don't understand that terminology, think of it as a mood board that's highly curated and assembled in such a way that it feels like somebody spent weeks designing you in a comprehensive design system. It involves textures, colors, materials, packaging, typography, signage, kind of everything that we think fits the brand. And then we present that to the client. They typically just pick one. Sometimes they have small notes, but if we're doing our job, if we're like really good at listening, then we're not that far off, right? It's usually 85% there. They'll say like, that doesn't feel like the right demographic. So if you can change the person, that's too cool. That's too aspirational. So we pull it back a little bit. From that, we actually then begin the design process. Now we're kind of being able to look into the future. The client's already pre-approved the general direction.
Yeah.
And now the designers can really sit there and refine and draw a beautiful logo, build out textures and patterns, and build out the entire identity system.
What is the best idea you ever had? If you could like have the best idea from Christo.
In terms of client work or just?
No, just the best idea.
Okay.
If it's starting with YouTube, then yeah, the best idea.
Yeah. Okay. The best idea I have is the current idea I'm working on right now, which is to build a content and education company talking about things like design, typography, logos, but also the business aspect like sales and marketing and negotiations. Because my dream is to share some of this success that I've been able to achieve with others in a way that they can feel empowered to achieve it on their own.
Oh, I love that. I try to make what I do mostly is working with marketers and helping them. Well, what I want to do is to help them actually show the value of the work that they are doing, because in my experience, most of the marketers I work with, they are overworked with people that actually don't understand marketing around them, thinking that marketers just wibble their wands and then something magical happens, and they don't always get to show the return on investment of what they do. So that's kind of my pet peeve, what I love doing. But so what you're doing also, I've taken a couple of your courses, and I think the way you do things are really good. If for everyone watching, just go to I'll paste the link actually so people can see. But if you tell a bit more about how you are building this for people, sorry. And why did you want to do this?
How am I building the courses or the content education company?
The company and the why did you want to do this? Because it's quite a big undertaking, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, before I made my first YouTube video, I had been teaching at Art Center for, I think at that point, maybe 11 years.
Yeah.
And it's some of my happiest moments, which is to come into a classroom to deal with 10, 12 hungry students, hungry minds wanting to know, and the push and pull between the tension and the solution, the resolution, those kinds of things make me really happy. And the reason why I love teaching so much is, and this sounds like a cliche, but I've always learned more from my students than I've ever taught them. So when they ask questions about what it is that I'm thinking about, they make me examine my own thought process, my own biases, and to be able to explain that to them in a way that they can achieve similar results or ideas. And it's a really wonderfully exhausting, beautiful thing, because for 5 hours we sit together in a room with lots of sticky notes and whiteboards and drawings and just working together and trying to share some of what I've learned in the last X number of years to help them. But the problem with all that stuff was it's a fairly short-lived, finite experience. I teach for 14 weeks. It's 5 hours a week, and then it's over. And you touch the lives of maybe 10, 12 students at a time.
The people,
if you're lucky, if they're all paying attention.
Yeah.
And then you repeat the entire process again the next semester, and you just do it over and over. It changes, it evolves, but essentially it's the same.
Yeah.
So my wife had challenged me. She's telling me, like, why don't you try and teach more people? There's more for you. And I don't know that she was thinking YouTube, but she was just thinking, you're a smart person, figure it out.
Figure it
And
out.
so
Yeah.
then I have to go in and have to think about that. Like, what can I do? Right? What can I do to be able to expand on this? And then getting into making content on YouTube was just the beginning. And I love the process. I love the process of teaching. I wish I didn't have to make money. I
Yeah.
wish that YouTube or Disney or somebody would just say, you know what, we think what you're doing is fantastic. We're just going to give you a few $1,000,000 so that you can do this to employ your team and for you to be able to support your life and your family. I think that would be wonderful. And unfortunately, that's not the case, not yet.
No.
And so then we have to make courses in order to capture some of the attention that we've garnered, and also so that people can reciprocate. People watch a channel, they're like, I don't really need to learn this, but I'm just going to buy this course because I know it supports you. And I say to that, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and you don't set low goals for yourself either, because
No.
your goal is 1 billion.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of people.
It is.
How
It's like
far
1
along
in
are
8
you?
people.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
How
very
far
far
along are
away
you
from
now?
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
but I'm guessing we are touching more people today, figuratively, of course.
yeah,
So
figuratively for
yeah,
sure.
what
I'm not touching anybody. I promise you.
what is the worst idea you ever have done?
Oh, on the way to having a successful idea, you have many mistakes and many failures, and we
Yeah,
try things all the time that just don't work. And I don't really put them into the category of failures. I just put them into the category of necessary lessons for success. And so it's hard for me to be able to, like, what is a giant failure?
the
But
least pleasant learning experience then.
sure. The least pleasant learning experience for me was early on in my career when I'm doing client work, and I have a very strict delivery deadline,
Hmm.
and the clients were still making changes the night before, which put me in
Oh,
a terrible position.
yeah.
And then there was a problem of rendering because I'm doing animation, and so now I have to go and finish the work. So I'm working all night, and this is a really bad decision. I decided to go to sleep.
Yeah.
So I'd
Yeah.
been working until like 2 or 3 in the morning. I was exhausted and I went to sleep, and I woke up in 2 hours, and I checked the machines, and the machines weren't working properly. Some of them had crashed. And so the deadline was on us. And one other thing, we were moving that day. So my
Just to do,
wife
yeah.
had, yeah, it's just everything that could go wrong goes wrong. So these professional movers are in our office space boxing things up while I'm frantically working on the computer, and I could just feel this stress seep out from my pores and just all over my face and body. And get this, I'm working on the renderings while on the floor because they're taking away the desks, they're taking away the chairs because I don't want to move that later. So I have little milk crate cartons or boxes, and I have my monitor on it, and a mouse, and the keyboard on the floor, trying to manage 6 different computers. It was probably my worst professional experience ever.
Yeah. Did you deliver on time?
I did not deliver on time.
No.
It
No.
was late. It was full of
Listen.
mistakes, and it was just an
Yeah.
embarrassing professional experience.
It sounded like, but then again, it's also in cases like that, I so much want to scream to the client, well, don't change it. we this is, yeah, but yeah, we've all been there,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, that's not really the client's problem. It's my problem.
Yeah.
I take 100% responsibility. I didn't manage the project well
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
I shouldn't. Knowing that there's a move on the same deadline day is horrific. I
Mm.
probably should have just paid for a second set of movers to come when I was ready, but I was already kind of in a desperate situation, and I wasn't thinking clearly. So everything that could go wrong went wrong that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of things inspire you in everyday life then?
Generally, people inspire me.
Hmm.
When I hear someone struggle, they're trying to get through a problem, and I just hear that they want to solve that, and when they find the solution, they take massive action. I just sit back and like, wow. I'm in awe of people who have a problem, who don't quit, who are then able to find an answer, and then without too much hesitation, just go for it, and then to transform their lives. That is very inspiring to me.
But where do you, or do you think there is like a line where if you have tried something and like the people that somebody should tell them on like American Idol that actually, Chris, you shouldn't sing in public or something like that. The people that, because I also I'm inspired by people that have this tenacity and this grit, but some people I think maybe should have a little bit less grit or try different things. How can you tell people that in a nice way, and where is that line? Do you have any thoughts around that?
I do. I don't think it's my place to tell people what they should and shouldn't be doing, unless they ask me.
Yeah,
There's a difference. If you ask me, then I'll ask you one more question. Are you sure you want to know what I think and feel, like truly, or you want me just to say good job? Like, no, really, let me have it. And then I'll let you have it. But I think there's this thing that we sometimes fall into this trap where we think because we enjoy doing something that people should pay us to do it. Sometimes it works out. Sometimes it doesn't. And in that case, it's okay to love doing something even if you suck. If you love singing, if singing gives you a lot of joy, but you can't carry a tune and you're off key, sing all to your heart's content, but don't expect that you're going to be the next pop star. And that's okay. So do something because you love it, and stick with it. And it's totally okay. You can play guitar all of your life and be terrible, but if it gives you joy, do it. Then we have to find a way to make money, and then we have to hopefully develop a skill so that people will pay us to do that thing.
Yeah. What things, like mainly, do you think that you inspire mostly in other people?
From what I can tell from the feedback, they like a couple of things. They like how I simplify problems, how I speak clearly, how I have a very strong opinion about something. And that means some people like that and some people don't like that, but I'm clear about where I stand on certain things. And in a very confusing world where everything's gray and everything can work, having someone who's like, it's this or it's that, but it can't be both, is refreshing for people.
Yeah, I think so too. Now I have 20 quick questions. These are rapid fire.
Okay.
The answers doesn't have to be a rapid fire, but the questions will be.
Okay, I'll try my best.
What is your most marked characteristic?
My stoicism.
I love that. What quality do you like most in a person?
Honesty.
What do you value most in your friends?
Loyalty.
What is your principal defect?
I think, oh my gosh, my worst defect. Sometimes I don't understand and process my emotions.
Do you study Stoicism, like from the question before?
I do not.
Have you tried?
I read one book.
Okay. What?
And I'm curious about it.
Yeah.
It was the book "The Obstacle Is the Way" by Ryan Holiday.
Okay, cool. I have started reading Stoicism, about Stoicism, and there is a book called A Guide to the Good Life by William B. Irvine. I can send you a link. It takes Stoicism into how to utilize Stoicism into modern life, and I really appreciate that way of thought. What is your favorite occupation?
Teaching.
What is your dream of happiness?
Teaching 1 billion people.
Yeah. In your mind, what would be your greatest misfortune?
Failure to teach 1 billion people.
How would you like to be remembered?
having taught a billion people. I mean, I love teaching, and I'm frustrated because the building the business part gets in the way of the teaching part. Like I need to make money. I need to be a team, and I like to grow my team and scale our efforts and to be able to bring in many teachers. So there's a lot of pressure that I put on myself for the business model to succeed.
Do you use like to reach out to more people and stuff like that? Do you use digital marketing and paid ads and stuff like that to reach more people?
We do, but we're not good at it. We don't know how to run ad campaigns, apparently. So we need to work on that.
Yes, if you want, I can teach you, and and that is something we really work with a lot. So yes. In what country would you like to live?
I like living where I'm at right now, unless things continue to go downhill. I love America. I love living in Santa Monica because of the temperate climate, because entertainment capital of the world, and the opportunities that exist here. But I do love to travel as well.
What is your favorite color?
Does black count as a color, or do you want a real color?
I think black counts as a color, and I also have to say I really enjoy your style. Also, the absence of hair and a cap, which encapsulates the nakedity of the skull. I really enjoy that. That's what I'm aiming for as well.
Yeah.
Who is your favorite writer?
Probably Edgar Allan Poe, for that noir genre, and I also like Isaac Asimov for science fiction.
Cool. Who is your favorite fictional hero?
The Incredible Hulk. And I like the Hulk because he's tormented by people. He's got multiple personality disorder, and he can be the most brilliant person when he's a human, sometimes cold, and he can also be one of the most powerful people as the Hulk.
Cool. I like that. I don't know if it was you who helped me understand the thing introvert outrovert thing, but when I read that you are a loud introvert, because I understood, I thought for myself that I was an extrovert all my life, but my mom has told me that all the time when I was younger, when I was like out in public and having old friends over, and when I was alone, then I was like a wreck. I was totally empty of all forms of energy, so I had to like store up afterwards, but I didn't connect that to being like introverted, but now I understand that I need some alone time also to be able to actually, I wouldn't say perform, but to interact with other people. Do you feel the same way, or do you have to like charge your batteries to be able to perform?
Yeah, so I think I am the same way, but there's such a thing I think people have been describing as an ambivert. So you're somewhere in the middle. And I don't think it's possible to change who you are, but I feel like I'm changing, because my default is to stay at home, not to go out. And if I'm around people, then afterwards I'm going to take a nap, because right now I'm tired. I've had 3 calls this morning and I want to go lay down really soon. But when I'm doing a talk and I'm in a foreign city, I'm out there doing the talk, and then I'm happily going to the after parties and the gatherings, because I want to meet people. I want to talk to them, and hopefully I can answer the question. So I don't know. I get energized by that now. So it's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah, I've been doing live action role playing games all my life almost, and the way I see it, I put on a role as a really engaged extrovert, and I say to myself, okay, Helge, game face on, and then I'm this character that really enjoys, and I enjoy talking to people also, but I find it really tiring at lengths. But I put on the game face and I do the things, and then I have to just lay down afterwards.
Yeah.
But yeah, who is your favorite musician?
Right now, I'm loving the band 21 Pilots. It's not my favorite, but I'm really just admiring this, that one person can write the song, the lyrics, and perform all the parts, and it's super impressive. But I also love his ability to go on stage and and really produce a show that's engaging for the audience. And so I'm just impressed by this young man.
Cool. I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite artist?
Who's my favorite artist? Shoot, I should know this. I whenever you put the word favorite, it means that for some reason
Yeah.
the others are not as, and it's really tough. Like for a long time in my life, I really admired the work of Pablo Picasso and how playful he was in interpreting things and so revolutionary in co-inventing cubism. And I love that. But then as I get older, I'm like, okay, I'm over Picasso. Like who else? I'm into a lot of different people now, like Damien Hirst and his conceptual thinking with his fine art. I love his installations and just taking mundane things and just making them super, super interesting. And I think that's what art is.
Yeah, I think so too. And I've had this same question for a long time. I'm not sure who my favorite artist is, but as I told you earlier, I'm a huge nerd, and I've been watching Doctor Who since 2005. And there is in some season of the newer Doctor Who, there is an episode where he travels back in time and visits Van Gogh. Have you seen this episode?
No.
Okay, he goes back and meets Van Gogh solving some space-time continuum thing there. But Van Gogh is in this episode, and I think also in his real life, so tormented, so depressed. So and this actor that portrays him, I feel the chills coming on just thinking about it, because he's a wreck. And the last thing the doctor does while as a kind of service to Van Gogh is to take him forward in time and taking him to see the Van Gogh Museum, or the wing of the Museum of Fine Art or something like that. And that scene, it's so amazing. I would recommend everyone just watching it, because he asked the curator while Van Gogh is standing with his back turned, and he says, could you tell what do you think about Van Gogh? And to see how he describes his painting and feelings and how he reacts to that, it's one of my favorite TV series moments ever, and also with like a person that actually existed but didn't go forward in time as far as we know. That was real. I call it pigtail thought. So I just go. Yeah. What do you most dislike? Sorry.
What do I most dislike in general? Or?
In general, yeah.
The thing that obviously there are a lot of big problems in the world, right? But I'm not going to focus on that. I'm trying to give a very personal answer. I generally have issues being around people who don't truly understand themselves and are wearing a mask, pretending to be someone else, because I can usually see who they are, and it's difficult for me to be around people like, I see you. It'd be nicer if you just stop pretending to be someone else. And so there's that friction that exists.
Cool. Who are your heroes in real life?
My heroes are my parents, both my dad and mom, for the lessons they taught me. My dad about hard work, persistence, living humbly, laying gratification for long-term goals. I learned that from my dad. My mom has this super beautiful, passionate spirit. She's creative, she's adventurous, she's bold. I wished for her, and obviously this is an empty thing, but I wished for her that when she was a young woman that she was born to different parents and grew up in America where things were possible, because she would be a very different person today.
What natural gift would you most like to possess?
Speed reading.
What vice do you have that you like to give in to?
I like to give into, like,
Yeah.
okay, so I have an obsessive personality. When I get into something, I forego most things and I just go really deep. And I know sometimes that's not healthy. And the example of this would be like a kid who plays a video game who forgets to go to the bathroom and then pees on himself.
Yeah.
I'm not that extreme, but I really get into stuff.
Yeah.
It's close.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How would you like to die?
I would like to die around my loved ones and knowing that I did more good in the world and that I gave more than I took.
Yeah, thank you. That's nice. Thank you so much for joining me on my podcast, Chris. It was a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much. The lightning round questions are tough, man.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be easy. Could you stick around for a couple of minutes? We'll just play the outro and go offline. To everyone watching, thank you so much. Check out Chris, and I'm guessing most of you already have, but yeah, still. Have a good day, and we'll talk suddenly.